We're live.
All right, welcome back, everybody. House Energy and Digital Infrastructure. It is Wednesday, May 13th. And we are going to try to get a little bit of a heads up from Ledge Council if we can on H710. And just so folks know, or a little bit of orientation, and this may be folly and it may not work. But my thought was that we could try to get a jump on bills that of ours or that we thought might be coming back from the Senate, so that we can be ready if and when they come. So, Ellen, that was my plan, or that is my thought. So anyway, I'm Rep. Kathleen James from Manchester.
Scott Campbell from St. Johnsbury.
Richard Bailey, Lamoille 2.
Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Dara Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Klubner, Chittenden 13, Burlington.
Laura Sibilia, Wyndham 2.
Great. In the room?
Daniel Harry with McCrasson Group.
Super.
Peter Sterling, Renewable Energy Vermont.
Great.
Allison Nescafé from Millersburg, Clean Environment.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Ellen, so I am under the impression that H710 is coming back. Can you fill us in? I think the Senate has made some amendments or has put some new language in. So I'm curious if we can get a heads up on that.
Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. H710 is not currently on the Natural Resources agenda. H710 was initially sent to Senate Finance. Senate Finance decided that wasn't for them, and they sent it to Senate Natural Resources. Senate Natural Resources has looked at one draft. It is draft 1.1 dated May 5th. So make sure you are looking at May 5th, 1.1. So what they did do is slightly rewrite what was a confusing subsection. And then they've added the decommissioning language from the PUC that the PUC pitched to your committee as well. And that is where they are now.
So we should be looking at, hang on, I'm going to find it.
It's in today's docs.
On our page?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, what do you know?
Oh,
Good.
Check and make sure no one's hurt.
It's been a recycling incident. Okay, draft 1.1 dated May 5th. Okay.
and Ellen, the strikeouts and the highlights.
Would you like me to walk through that?
Yep.
When did those appear? What do they mean?
So this draft 1.1 is what is in front of the Senate currently, and so highlights are new language.
And so strikeouts are stuff they removed, highlights are stuff they added?
No.
No.
So this is a regular bill.
Okay.
So let me just start while I'm running through.
Okay.
Okay. So you will recall that H710 is looking at the definition of plant as used in renewable programs. The proposal that you have is based on the stakeholder work that the PUC did. It is on page 1 in section 1, striking out the initial definition that is currently in statute about the factors used to determine whether or not something is a single plant or multiple plants. The language on page 1 is the language that you sent the Senate. The underlined language starting on line 17 is what is being proposed for the change generally. So it's multiple facilities, multiple electric generating facilities, regardless of when each is constructed, shall be considered one plant if they use the same electricity generating technology and are located on the same parcel or contiguous parcels of land. However, such facilities shall be considered separate plants if. And so on page 2, you will recall that there are 3 proposed exceptions to this rule, and so they have been rephrased slightly for readability. So on page 2, the first exception, the facilities are for individual net metering and self-consumption and are not located on the same parcel of land, are wired to offset separate billing meters and supply different retail customers. So this is the first exception for net metering. Just the intro language on line 1 has changed slightly from what you sent, but it is the same intent. I will point out that the Public Utility Commission has said that the and on line 1 should be an or, so it's net metering or self-consumption. But this is the first exception to this rule.
Okay, for reporter. This is your bill, right?
Yes.
Make sure you're following along. So this is, so we're continuing to try to make the language more and more clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a thought on that comment by, if that's the commission says that the and should be an or?
Yes.
Give me thoughts about that.
I look forward to making this change if they take up another draft of this bill.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next exemption, line 7, the facilities are for multi-owner individual net metering and are located on the same parcel as a common interest community, separate meters, separate retail customers. So again, just clarifying the sentence, part of the sentence on line 6. And then subdivision C is the one that was more confusing. So the facilities have separate points of interconnection, and a net metering facility and a standard offer program facility are not sited on the same parcel or contiguous parcels. And for facilities under each program, the total capacity located on a parcel or contiguous parcel does not exceed the program statutory capacity cap. So it is the same concept as that passed out of here, but attempting to just be more clear. And so this is about when there are facilities sited near each other, they have separate points of interconnection. So long as net metering and standard offer are not sited together and the capacity caps are not exceeded, they can be separate plants under this definition.
Rep Helen, was your hand?
Oh,
Okay, no. Okay, questions?
Just looking back, I think what we passed is probably okay. So,
I would say I will plant this little flag right now. If and when this comes back to us, and we need to prepare to take it. I mean, if we concur, whatever. Are you gonna be able to do a side by side, or would that be helpful?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but given that this bill
No,
is
not
actively
yet.
being worked on,
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yes. That was in advance, like, I think that would be helpful.
I mean, this will be really the only thing on the side by side is this subsection, because your bill did not include anything about decommissioning, which is the next part.
Okay. Forward. Okay.
I guess I would also just add, the Senate Natural Resources found subdivision C to be very confusing. Your committee did as well.
Mhm.
They asked the PUC if they could make suggested edits or if they agreed that it was confusing. PUC did say that they thought it was confusing. They proposed rewrites of it. I worked with them to further rewrite it, and it has been vetted by the PUC and the other Renewable Energy Vermont weighed in on it. So it is the same intent, just to be clear.
Okay. Should we go forward? Okay.
So the only other thing in this bill is the addition of sections 2 and 3, which are giving the PUC additional authority around decommissioning. They did make this proposal in here to you. Senate Natural Resources, I'm not sure has actually taken testimony on this yet, because I'm quite busy down there. But section 2 is amending 30 VSA section 20. So I'm on page 3. This is amending their build-back authority that they already have. So the commission or the Department of Public Service may authorize or retain legal counsel, official stenographers, expert witnesses, advisors, and consultants, temporary employees, and other providers of research, scientific, financial, economic, actuarial, accounting, or engineering services. So expanding the type of experts they can hire through build-back, and then also explaining the reason for what they can use that authority for. So on page 3, to investigate, review, plan, oversee, or carry out the decommissioning and site restoration required by a certificate of public good issued to an electric generation and energy storage facility.
And you said bill back.
Yep, so both the Public Utility Commission and the Department of Public Service have the authority to bill back for services that they needed in order to work on a specific project. And so here, for the certificate of public good for either an electric generation facility or an energy storage facility, they already have authority currently to hire specific experts for specific projects, but this is giving them additional authority for those projects related to decommissioning and site restoration.
And who are they billing?
The applicant.
Project owner.
So from
Okay, so that's, I see.
yeah, if the developer wants to build a solar farm, and the PUC needs help in developing the decommissioning plan, they can hire people and build the developer. Those hires.
Okay. So that would drive up the cost of project. I'll ask the department about this. Okay.
And they're specifically here adding language regarding consultants on financial, economic, and actuarial accounting because the decommissioning process is speculative. It's based on the future and what site conditions will require. And so the PUC is looking for additional authority around hiring experts to help them make the financial calculations about what amount will be needed for potential decommissioning in the future. So on page 4, section 3, this is a new section that's proposed to be added to Title 30, 248E, Electric Generation and Energy Storage Facility Decommissioning Fund. So it's setting up a special fund for decommissioning. So there is created the Electric Generation and Energy Storage Facility Decommissioning Fund. Shall be a special fund created pursuant to 32 VSA Chapter 7, Subchapter 5, and shall be administered by the Chair of the Public Utility Commission. The Chair is authorized to collect monies for the decommissioning fund and to make disbursements from the decommissioning fund. Deposits in the decommissioning fund shall consist of all decommissioning surety fees collected for electric generation and energy storage facilities that have received a certificate of public good from the Commission, and all monies drawn from decommissioning financial instruments. The Commission shall deposit into the decommissioning fund each decommissioning surety fee it receives under this subchapter.
Do these decommissioning surety fees already exist?
So
Or are they establishing a new fee?
So it's unclear to me. I reached out to the PUC about this because they do have currently they have authority as part of the 248 process. They have decommissioning rules for what decommissioning process needs to apply to an electric generation facility or energy storage facility that gets their CPG. Currently, they've been using the mechanism of having surety instruments, so that each entity needs to demonstrate that they have set aside the funding that would be necessary to decommission a site. And so I do think it is slightly unclear if that is what they're currently referring to. It does seem to me like they might want additional fee authority specifically to collect a fee to deposit into this fund. So this language is still under development.
Well, it sounds like from what you just said, that the applicant or the developer is required to hold that money
Yes.
right now. That's good, the current situation. And this would change that and have the stakeholder.
Potentially. I mean, I think this language could use additional clarity because this section is just setting up a special fund for the Public Utility Commission in which they can hold decommissioning surety. I think the mechanism of collecting may need additional authority. They have authority under Section 248 to require mitigation based under the criteria. So I think additional testimony may be needed on this.
Sounds like it. Thank you.
Okay.
Bottom of page 4, subsection C. Disbursement from the decommissioning fund may be made by the chair to undertake action that the commission considers necessary to investigate or mitigate, or both, the effects of an abandoned, non-operational or disclaimed electric generation or energy storage facility. Disbursements under this subsection may be made to, onto page 5. Pay costs to third parties who initiate or complete facility decommissioning and site restoration where the holder of the certificate of public good is unknown, cannot be contacted, is unwilling to take action, is incapable of carrying out decommissioning or site restoration, or does not take timely action as ordered by the commission. Investigate ownership of or ascertain the holder of the certificate of public good for an electric generation or energy storage facility. Take other appropriate remedial action. Pay costs to persons retained by the commission or department under what is the prior section of this bill. Or return portions of the decommissioning surety fees as determined by a formula established by the commission to individual certificate of public good holders upon satisfactory completion of decommissioning and commission approval. And then there's some definitions here. Chair is the chair of Public Utility Commission. Commission is the PUC. Decommissioning means to remove a facility safely from service and restore the site to its condition before this facility was installed, consistent with the facility's certificate of public good and commission rules and orders. On to page 6, decommissioning fund is the name of this special fund. Decommissioning surety fee means the contribution assigned to a facility and determined by a funding formula established by the commission, not to exceed the average cumulative cost of obtaining decommissioning financial instruments for the life of the facility. The average cumulative cost means the customary and reasonable market-based third-party costs, expenses, and fees associated with obtaining, maintaining, renewing, and updating financial instruments, and staff and attorney time and expenses. The department is the Department of Public Service. Balances in the decommissioning fund shall be expended only for the purposes authorized in this chapter and shall not be used for the general obligations of government or other governmental purposes. All balances at the end of the fiscal year shall be carried forward and remain in the fund. Interest earned by the fund shall be credited to the fund. The commission shall have authority to adopt rules and issue orders implementing this chapter. The commission shall provide to the treasurer of the state of Vermont an annual accounting of the decommissioning fund. And on page 7, the effective date is July 2026.
Okay. Questions for Ellen?
Yeah, just if you get this, will be more questions that are definitely about the decommissioning fund.
Well, as fate would have it,
It just had.
no, let me see, I'm trying to keep track of my email. We have PUC who's come to talk to us about the bill in the room. Renewable Energy Vermont is here. Anne Margolis from the department has submitted testimony, but it's not about the decommissioning language. And then TJ Poor
I do have one quick question.
has, okay.
And this language was added in finance, right?
No,
It was not.
No.
Where's it from? It was added. She said they didn't take that point. Natural resources, or they did.
no, it was added to the natural, but I don't think they have specifically taken any testimony.
I see. Exactly.
So the department unfortunately has partially evaporated. Anne Margolis has submitted written testimony and she's going to join us, I think.
She's on the way to go.
Great. On the single plant portion of the bill, but we'd invited Jim Porter to speak to us on the decommissioning part, and he's not able to be here today. And so I've just written to TJ to tell him that we'll definitely need testimony from DPS about the decommissioning language. So, great. Super. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually really glad. I think that was not a waste of time. So thank you so much for being here. Great. Greg, do you want to?
Thanks,
Can
Ellen.
I have 5 minutes?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. Peter, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Great. So, yeah, you've heard our purpose. We're trying to get a jump on 710 in the hopes that it's on its way back to us.
I can just set a record for my brief. Peter Sterling, Renewable Energy Vermont. I can set a personal record for briefest testimony ever.
Great.
This bill is the result of a lot of compromise and hard work since you initiated this process last March. And I think this works really well. With both the decommissioning language and the single plan language as far as, both stated goals of, protecting ratepayers, preserving these open spaces and allowing solar power to be deployed as cheaply as possible in the most efficient manner. And I hope this gets a few ASAP.
Great. So, so the single plant language, I mean, I'm just trying to high level
Sure.
here. So it seems like the single plant language is just an ongoing struggle to try to get language that people can understand.
That's right.
So we're continuing to try to make that more clear, easy to understand. Can you talk to us a little bit about the decommissioning
Sure.
portion? Because
Sure.
we, when the bill was in our committee,
Yeah.
we took a little bit of testimony.
Yep.
There wasn't a whole lot of interest, so we just kind of dropped it and moved on.
Right.
So, I'm not sure I remember like
Sure. I can go with that.
deep-seated opposition. It was more that we just didn't do it.
Right, and at the time, the language that the commission presented to you was not language that I was supportive.
Mhm.
And since that time, we have worked through the differences of opinion. And so the language they have presented to the Senate is language that Rev and other groups like Beaver will think is beneficial. So right now, if you want to decommission a solar project, it's basically modeled on like a nuclear power plant.
That's what I wanted to ask. Just
Yeah.
tell us how it
Sure.
works now and how, what we're
So for
proposing changing.
any solar array that's over 500 kW. So just think of something that's on, more than 2 acres of land,
Okay,
right? There's a process that was modeled after nuclear decommissioning where you have to take a chunk of money and set it aside based on what the PUC has estimated would be the cost of it being decommissioned.
so right now, the PUC estimates what the cost of decommissioning would be, and the developer has to set that cash aside
It's somewhere.
in some way or the other.
It could be a letter of credit. It could be a surety bond. It could be an escrow. And it really depends on what the developer, how it works. The developer does it, each developer does it differently based on their needs. So for example, like a really, really giant developer, like someone massive, because they have such a massive amount of capital, a bank would say, well, you know what, you just need a letter of credit. That's super easy because you're so big, we know you have the money. A smaller developer, the bank, would never give them that letter of credit because they don't have as much assets. So they say, you actually have to physically come up with the money, in which case, all of these and these letters, whatever these vehicles are, the letter of credit, the surety bond, the escrow, they all have to be updated every 3 years. And the PUC says that to make sure it's current, right?
Okay,
And that takes a lot of time, a lot of lawyers get involved. For the developer, that's an ongoing expense for the project. And so folks have never, been happy about it, but they just want to live with it. And ultimately, they pass that on to the ratepayer at some level by the cost of developing the project. And so when the PUC initiated this process, and they've said in testimony, one of the reasons they've initiated this process, they don't like internally having to update these letters every 3 years. Like
Right.
a lot of work staying on top. There's 100 existing projects out there on between 500 that qualify between 500 kW and 5 megawatts. So they're constantly trying to chase these down. There's papers that they have to get, original documents that are sitting in boxes that they have rejected. I think Steph Hoffman had testified that, there was a flood and the floodwaters got, within a bunch of feet of all those papers, in which case everything would have been ruined. Like, this is bad for them. This is a lot of work they don't want. They don't feel it benefits ratepayers or anything. So they're looking for a different process. And this is I think one of the most important points that PUC has raised throughout this process is they want to create a decommissioning system that works so well that it's not just for prospective new projects, but that all those 99 or 100 projects that currently exist will want to opt in, because legally it would be very challenging to force an existing CPG holder to opt into a different decommissioning process than the one that's already in their permit. That'd be very difficult, if not impossible. And so the PUC is motivated to find a new decommissioning solution that will be so attractive to these existing projects, they voluntarily come in. So there's one system for everyone. The PUC has said in testimony, they do not want two systems on decommissioning. So that is very encouraging to wrap up. And yeah, and it showed up in the way they've come to the table to try to make this work. And so one of the things about decommissioning that I think we should just be realistic about is these are very high value sites. These sites in Vermont that currently host this solar they're already connected to the grid. They've already been permitted once. The chances of a lot of them being decommissioned are pretty slim. People are going to want these to be repowered. So once those solar panels are done and they get recycled after their 25 years, that infrastructure is there, that wiring, and not just like the racking and stuff, but people are going to want to put new panels up on those sites because they've been permitted once. The landowner presumably is already into it because it's been there. I mean, landowners always change their mind, but that the number of these sites that will actually be decommissioned is very small in all likelihood. So that's why the PUC is thinking of different ways of financing decommissioning not based on every single plant will be decommissioned, which was the thinking, I think, when this whole model started. Like every nuclear power plant was going to be decommissioned at some point. We knew it, right? That's not the same for solar. There's a much smaller percentage. And then of those that will be decommissioned, the numbers that would actually go bankrupt is also probably very small. Yes. These things have value. The salvage value of these solar panels, the racking and the wiring is enormous. And so the PUC is going to be studying all of that during this new process. And I believe it will end up working out in a way that, will benefit ratepayers, benefit PUC and help make it a little more affordable to go solar, which is our goal.
Yeah, Rep Campbell.
Sure. So will this decommissioning fund, I'd like you to talk about what's attractive about it, but the first question that comes to mind is, this would be for any generation project, right? So not that we're gonna have more nuclear, but if we did.
No,
Now, so is this only for solar?
only for solar.
Only for solar, okay.
Right.
Well, that, I guess you're gonna get to that, but I just want to hear a little bit more about why this is so impressive.
Okay, I can do that.
So, solar and other clean energy, right? 710 applies to wind.
Not the decommissioning language.
Electric generation and electric storage. So electric generation.
Yeah, because we had a question, actually, and now I have no memories. We had a question on the floor,
Yeah.
Peter, when we presented this bill the first time around about whether the entire bill applied to
That's right,
only
yeah.
solar or to all renewables, AKA wind,
Yeah.
hydro.
It's everything.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is under 248.
Okay.
But obviously 90% of our renewable generation is solar.
right.
So think of it in terms of solar.
But also,
We were
Think of it
until we got that question on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but also storage, right?
Right.
And actually my other question was, I think, Rep Campbell's question, which is, this goes from parking all the money at the beginning of a project
Yeah.
to, if you think the project's going to last 25 years, to parking a 25th of it every year, to cumulatively at the end date to end up with the right amount of money. Is that accurate?
No, not quite. This is more of like, this goes from everybody parking money at the front, like you said,
Yeah.
to more of a health insurance model with an actuarial estimate, like an estimate. The PUC throughout this process is going to say, let's take a real look at all the literature and get the experts in and say, how many of our projects do we actually think will be decommissioned?
Got it.
And of those projects that will be decommissioned, whatever
Right.
small percentage, because it will be a small
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah.
How many of those would actually are likely to default on decommissioning
Yeah.
and likely have to access this fund? In other words, we have a health insurance pool, how many people are going to get sick? How much money do they
Right.
need? That's my understanding of the process the PUC is going to undertake in developing this fund.
So instead of upfront putting the amount that it would cost to decommission one entire project, you put in your share of what the whole system.
And that's where the savings comes in.
So you've got 100 people contributing, and if you think 5 projects will need decommissioning and the owner will have defaulted,
That's right.
everyone puts in,
That's right. $10,000, pick your number.
Yeah, whatever.
But the PUC will decide that number.
Their
Done.
share of what it'll take to decommission 5 plants 25 years from now.
100%.
Got it.
And so, for example, like one of the factors that will go in that's not currently evaluated when you have to write that big upfront check is what is the value of the salvage of all this stuff on that property? I mean, it is, we have learned over time because when this law was written, decades ago, we didn't understand solar as well and deployment. Now we have 20 more years of experience. So we understand now that the value of the salvage of a solar array has real value. Like we're talking 6 figures. If you pull that stuff off, yeah, people want that stuff to repurpose it and reuse it. It's very, very
The
valuable.
panels, the inverters, the racking,
The wiring,
Maybe
all
the
that
wire,
underground wiring,
all that
very
copper wire.
valuable stuff.
yeah.
And so when you factor in a certain percentage of that salvage being, the offsetting the cost of potentially decommissioning, that really brings down the cost, potentially brings down the cost of how much you should have to come up with. So it's a fair assessment. So those are things that will be evaluated by the PUC throughout this process.
What do they do with the panels? I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right.
Well, right now, sometimes they're broken down, sometimes, unfortunately they get landfilled and sometimes they're recycled. It really depends. But I think that's one of the things the PUC will evaluate is, what is the value of the salvage? What happens to them? My very strong feeling is given the number of panels that were put up, about 15 years ago and in some time in the next decade will to be not as useful, there's going to be recycling programs. This stuff is very valuable. We're already talking about companies are already calling me about setting up markets in Vermont for collecting panels when they start coming off, and we're talking to them when, because people want these things. They don't, and the landfill certainly don't want them. And that really gives you a greater incentive to
Right.
find a
Figure out what to do
recycling
with them.
program. And they're 90% glass, right? So we know what to do with glass. It's the other 10% we gotta figure out how to dispose of properly.
Interesting. I don't know who's, we should,
I would just add that, panels degrade at 1.5% a year. So if you're 20 years in, even at 1.5%, it's still got 70% of its generating capacity. And there are people in this country and people in other countries for whom that's great to be able to generate that electricity with an inexpensive used panel.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you could send them to the Caribbean or even ship them over to Africa. You get a lot of more power out of them and they'd be super cheap. People are already talking about that.
Rick
Yeah,
Campbell?
so again, I'm wondering about the actuarial estimates.
Yeah.
About coming up with a number that a developer would have to put in order to sort of cover whatever is the expected cost would be. In the case of medical insurance, health insurance,
Yeah.
we have a lot of data. In the case of solar development or battery development, we don't have so much data.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a difficult calculation.
I will admit I'm very uninformed about decommissioning of energy storage project. That is, I haven't done that much work on it. So you really need someone else to speak to the energy storage part. I don't know what happens, but on the solar part, our people know, what it takes to bring a truck in and a bunch of workers and a bunch of, screw guns and all that stuff to pull all that stuff out and get rid of it.
No, well, there are hard costs that are,
Yeah.
and in fact, hard, perhaps salvage value that can be estimated. But the actuarial part of it, how many are going to get decommissioned? This is pretty much of a, wild guess.
Well, I would say this, I would say it's less of a wild guess than you would think, because when we talk to Rev members and the people who finance these projects, these sites nobody has said they want to, unless a landowner wants to do something different with that land, which is always possible.
Yeah.
It would be very unlikely that
They might want to build on it.
They might, exactly.
Housing on it.
100%, they might. But where most of these sites are located, my guess is in Vermont, because we have a law that says you need in-state renewables.
Mhm.
These sites are incredibly attractive for repurposing for solar. the people that I talk to who finance these projects and who build them, if they knew a site was coming offline, they would be beating down the door to get to that site to put more solar on it. It's that valuable.
Because the infrastructure's, it's the,
And it's been that's the big thing. It's been permitted once.
Yeah.
So presumably the permit process, which is like one of the most biggest costs is for a developer, is if it goes on forever and all the question marks, if there's a problem with the site, like if you've gotten that cleared and you can get a site built fast or repurposed fast, that is incredibly valuable. And all of the people I've spoken to are like, we would do everything we can to get that site repurposed, barring the landowner changing their mind. Okay. But energy storage, definitely, I can do some more research and come back, or I could recommend someone for y'all.
yeah, I would guess that a lot of the, what we don't know is what's the value of taking apart batteries.
Right.
But all the rest of the stuff, the wiring and the
Yeah.
infrastructure is.
But I would also guess that the same would be true for the physical location of an energy storage plant.
Yeah.
If that site has already been permitted.
Yeah.
And the infrastructure's there, it would be incredibly attractive to repurpose that for energy storage.
Yeah.
Because that's a demand that will, even if there is new technology that might potentially displace solar, I think we will need energy storage in our region.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have the land base to keep just building forever.
I would add what I know about storage, the technology is evolving pretty quickly. So whether any of the guts can be reused is unknown. Right. They may just be completely replaced with any one of the other things. But they are, I think, just the way this kind of tech goes, not likely to get larger and heavier for the same amount of energy density. So the pads and all that are presumably reusable under most scenarios.
Well, interesting. So that's the attractiveness. The attractiveness is instead of doing the paperwork every 3 years and reauthorizing and whatever, and in addition to having a large chunk of money or a bond sort of on your books, you can just get a small, I guess it would be an annual payment. Is that how?
Well, the PUC is going to make a final decision, but the conversations we've been having, it's one upfront check. Just you write, and then you're done, and then the PUC doesn't have to follow up. There's no staff time for them. The developer knows their cost up front. It's not this ongoing rigmarole with attorneys chasing down letters of credit and banks who change their mind, and then when the project gets sold, different chase down another bank, things like that. Yes.
Great. Well, we have PUC,
Yes.
which is,
Can I just say one thing before I wrap? First, thank you for doing this bill. I believe it'll lower the cost of solar and help protect the environment. There are two great benefits. But before I leave, I just want to throw out that the PUC continues to post net metering comments that have come in, even though the public comment period came in May 1st. There's going to be 1,000 comments when all is said and done. And of those 1,000 comments, only 3 were supporting making net metering more expensive. So it's 997 people weighed in saying, please don't make net metering more expensive so far. And only 3 have said, we think net metering is a bum deal. I think that's a pretty strong statement. That's how I'm here. Appreciate you.
thanks, Peter. I'm not sure who's up next. Greg, do either you or Ann are you under time pressure?
I'm not. Nope.
Okay. I don't really care who goes first. Ann, do you want to go ahead? I know you, I just wanted to clarify. So I know you've submitted written testimony. Thank you so much. But you're speaking only to the single plant portion of the bill, not to the decommissioning part, right?
That's correct.
So I'll be in touch.
Sorry.
That's okay. I wrote back to TJ and told him we definitely are going to need to hear from the department on the decommissioning portion of the bill. So anyway, but over to you.
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm Ann Margolis. I'm the Deputy Director of the Regulated Utility Planning Division at the Department of Public Service, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come to you today and talk about the single plant portion of H710. And I'm apologize that Jim Porter was unable to join us, and will definitely pass along that message or reinforce the message you sent to TJ.
Great, thanks.
Yes. So my testimony, I submitted written testimony. It's pretty straightforward, pretty short and sweet. Don't need to take up a lot of your time today, but the overall message is that we do not oppose the single plant language that's in H710, either as it was passed out of the House or as it's currently being considered to be amended in Senate. We were part of the proceeding that the commission opened up as directed by the legislature. So last year, the commission worked with a bunch of stakeholders, as you already heard, to workshop potential changes to the definition of single plant. And also there was a sort of separate track that looked at the decommissioning aspects that they were asked to look at. I think it was pretty collaborative work that we all did. There were versions that different stakeholders submitted for revising the definition of plant, all toward the stated legislative goals of looking at the land use benefits of co-location, of energy generation facilities, looking at the ability to do a comprehensive review of co-located facilities under all of the various 248 criteria, and also looking at the potential impact to ratepayers associated with co-located facilities. There were iterations of the definition that went back and forth. The department had proposed a few additional aspects to the definition of single plant that ultimately were not adopted, but we are okay with what the commission ultimately recommended and what is in this bill. We do think that it will greatly reduce the confusion and time and expense that is currently associated with the ambiguities in the definition of single plant, and that will be helpful all around for all the different parties, including the department. The revisions that we had recommended had to do with not only allowing co-location of plants under certain circumstances, which is what the proposed definition does, but potentially actively encouraging co-location under certain conditions. For example, on parcels that were preferred sites, perhaps as identified in regional and municipal energy plans, and also areas where the grid had verified headroom, both transmission and distribution headroom. Those suggestions were not adopted, and as I state in my comments, we understand that this is a screening definition. It is not meant to accomplish all purposes and all intents of understanding, where we would actively want to see co-location happen. It merely allows co-location under identified circumstances. So there are other opportunities to look at encouraging co-location that can be explored, and we would be happy to do that in the future. The other point we wanted to mention was just that the current definition, or the proposed definition, refers to existing renewable programs. So it refers specifically to net metering and the standard offer. It doesn't contemplate future programs. It would be difficult for it to do that, but it will be important if new different programs are introduced in the future. They'll be introduced in Title 30, and that would be a place to proactively, when you're identifying and creating future new programs, to identify how you would like them to factor into this definition, whether or not they would be allowed to co-locate under certain circumstances with each other or with net metering or standard offer projects. So that concludes my testimony, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Anne. Does anybody have any questions? No.
Great. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
I'll stay
Yeah,
on
thank
here.
you.
We'll
Yeah,
stay on.
thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Greg, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Greg Faber with the PUC. Good to be back here in a while. So H710, I guess it's been a bit of a confusing ride on this bill. I was told late last week that this bill is not coming back to you folks.
So were we.
Now I'm being told maybe it is.
That's what we heard.
it's again, based on nothing, but, so happy to talk about anything. You've heard all the explanations here. I don't disagree with any of them. I think Mr. Sterling, and has done a great job here. So, any questions for me? Happy to try and answer.
I don't have any specific questions. As I mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, our goal is, as the sands run through the hourglass, to make sure that if a bill bops back to us as time runs out, that we're not frantically trying to schedule testimony on any new language. And so the decommissioning part, it's just been reassuring for me to understand what it means, understand how it works, and hear on the record instead of like in the cafeteria that, PUC and the department and Rev are all okay with it.
Yeah, and this would have to go to Ways and Means up here. Because it does create a fund. So I want to give you guys a heads up on that, because downstairs that was a surprise in Senate Natural. And they said, wait a minute, this has to go back to finance because it was originally finance. Whole long story. But so that may be something you folks want to take into account, especially if you're starting to run out of time.
That alone
If it's, I don't know if it's Ways
was
and Means.
well
or
worth your
folks.
price of admission. I hadn't thought about that. Yes,
No.
that's good Ways and Means.
I didn't
don't
think about
think
it
probes.
there.
Yeah, as my understanding of bills that go to Ways and Means, and I've literally heard this said many times, anything that ever mentioned or contemplated or might mention or contemplate any kind of fee, assessment
Fund,
or tax or a fund. So
Yeah.
it'll have to go to Ways and Means.
So I think, yeah, I know. Well, yeah, something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Cut into your time.
Yep. Okay. Do we have questions for Mr. Faber?
I guess do you have any thoughts on the fund itself? I mean, it's sort of a department thing, but
The fund? No, that's our idea.
oh, it's your idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They'll weigh in on it at some point. The TJ is going to weigh in on it, but I think they're fine with it. Right now we get surety bonds, as Mr. Sterling explained, and they're difficult to acquire and to maintain over the life of the project. This would be a much easier and less expensive process for everyone. We just have a fund. Everyone pays into it up front. That money sits there. If that company goes into delinquency or bankruptcy, we will have that money and we can disperse it out of the fund much easier than going back to a financial institution with the bond and saying, hey, now we need money, and try to coordinate all that. But as Mr. Schiller says, we don't get a lot of decommissioning. In fact, we haven't had any so far. So, but we think this will work just in case we do get it in the future. We'll have better control of it, and it'll be less expensive for everybody.
So at its most basic, the central change here is that instead of these decommissioning funds being held by all the developers, it goes into a central pot from the get-go.
Right.
And the commission's
That's it, right?
Not the property.
Right.
I had.
That's right. So it would be a fund managed by the PUC,
Right.
not the department. And yeah, that's basically it. Setting up a fund as opposed to right now we have a collection of individual financial instruments from each and every project.
Yeah.
And those have to be maintained over the years. Sometimes financial institutions change. They change the terms and conditions of their surety fees. And so then that necessitates the developer to come before us and say, hey, this has changed. We've got this new one. Is this acceptable? Then we have to do a proceeding on that. It's all very time consuming. And this would be a much better arrangement.
Right. I just want to
Okay.
follow up on
Yep.
this. On what I asked Peter, I think it was, about the actuarial estimating required and sort of relatively small amount of data, certainly compared to medical insurance, about
Right.
how do you assess the probability of needing that money and come up with a figure that each developer should put into the.
Right. We're going to develop a funding formula. We'll do a proceeding. It'll involve all the stakeholders, obviously, and we'll come up with an actual formula for that.
Yeah.
To take all that into account.
I guess that
Yeah,
will happen.
I'd also say that this change means there will be a lot less developer money tied up.
Sure.
Because they'll be paying for, their share of 5 projects. They're 5% of a project instead of parking 100% of their own project. They don't have to go somewhere.
Yes.
So
Well, I understand the advantage.
it'll free up.
I'm wondering how we're going
free
to.
up a lot of capital in the developer world. But my question is this: so you figure 5 projects are going to be abandoned that you'll have to pay for, and figure out how much everyone's share of that is, and they put it all into the fund. And then one of these things does default, and you have to decommission it, and it takes up more than you had counted on. Say instead of 1/5 of the fund, it takes up half of it.
Right.
Is there a mechanism for replenishing back up to 80% of the original if it gets drawn down to 50% on one unexpectedly difficult decommissioning project?
Right. That's a good question. I think that would be covered during the proceeding to develop the funding formula itself. Something we obviously have to take into account.
Yeah, so you build in some the
Some
standard
contingency,
plus some contingency.
plus,
in case as you're decommissioning it, you hit a
it's a lot more expensive.
giant underground leaking oil tank that no one knew was there.
Right. And inflation, there's inflation too, obviously, and cost of money and in the future. And so, of course, you take all of it.
Yeah, so I believe we heard that Shaftesbury decommissioning might be $1.5 million to take it all back down. So that was the number, wasn't it? But so if you have the largest solar farm out there and it defaults, is that what you're going to base the fund on? Because I would be like expecting that the initial contributions would cover a huge decommissioning or cover a main and not have, like Rep. Kleppner said, a possible drawdown to zero. Are you expecting there will be a fairly sizable?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to account for all contingencies. So,
So I just want to follow. This is not just for default, though, right? This is for any project that gets to the end of its life, and the developer doesn't. Nobody wants to repurpose it for whatever reason. Then bringing that site back to status quo.
That's right.
Is what's required. So the developer will presumably have to pay for that.
he would draw upon funds.
We'll draw upon the fund.
Yeah.
So the fund will cover that as well.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Faber?
Okay, so
Oh, well, I was just thinking, because of the timing in the session, could just hold that decommissioning language for a separate bill next session. Like, is there anything integral to the single plant bill that will be impacted, just to be able to, I mean, it's not our issue, it's the Senate's, but.
Well, you're saying, I guess I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, it sounds like the decommissioning idea is a really good one that you had already been framing up in advance of the single plant bill. You've been thinking about.
It's been added to the single plant language in the Senate. They already amended 710 to include the decommissioning language that we're talking about.
So
today.
my question is, just in terms of logistics of getting 710 passed this session would be, what if you didn't include that language now, but did it later? Especially because you said there's not a lot of pressure.
That's not the language that's holding the bill up. Everyone's fine with the decommissioning language. It's the other part. It's the single plant language.
And
Well, I
PUC,
was thinking of the Ways and Means, the constraint that Ways and Means.
Oh,
providing.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand it. Yeah.
honestly, Ways and Means will spend 15 minutes on this. I mean, they're just lining them up, and it's really more just to let them know, we've got a bill for you to add to your runway.
Here. Okay. Sticking points.
At the
sounds like
airport.
it's different.
That is a new parliamentary term for me. But,
Yeah, but I do, recollection of this idea was that, we heard it, when PUC came in at the beginning of the session and presented us with the results of S50 and said, we workshopped the language. And by the way, we would also like you to include, and we took some testimony on it at that time and we moved on without including it. I honestly don't remember why. I think we just felt like we needed to
I think you're running out of time.
running out of time.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised actually to see it come back. We have some testimony on it, pre crossover, and we have your original proposal.
Right, there are slides that
Mhm.
you folks
Yep, we have them.
were presented with, so.
So, but yes. Okay. Yeah, Rep Campbell.
And I get, and you must have said this, and I was thinking about something else. So you're happy with the single point language too? The way it's called?
Oh, yeah, we've worked with the Senate on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and, it's fine.
Yeah, okay.
We're fine with the whole bill. There wasn't much pushback in the Senate, but there was a small problem. I'm being told maybe it can be worked out.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Didn't seem like that on Friday, but
The and or thing, and
the
I
what?
think,
No.
No,
Yeah,
Or is that-
it's
yeah, not that.
a little bit.
that's what,
Okay, great. So, thank you. That was really
You're welcome.
helpful.
Yep.
And, I feel like, yes, you see us responding to the latest rumors. 710 is coming back. Get ready.
I'm gonna go find out more.
Here we are getting ready. So, all right, we can,
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Greg.
we are actually, sorry, I've been told to always let the YouTube world know when we're coming back. We are done for the day. And we will be back tomorrow morning to learn about high efficiency biomass, to try to do a little preview on H753, and to try to start to do some preview work on data centers. Again, keeping with the theory of let's try to be ready for our bills that might be coming back. So